to Tigrai Television. I'm Mary Nimana. We'll be reading the news for you today. Stay tuned. Ahead of the military offensive launched by Ethiopian government's forces, President of Tigray, Tigray had sent a letter to high-ranking officials, including U.S. Secretary of State Antonio Blinken and Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, regarding the looming threats to peace from Ethiopian government's side. The president had raised concerns regarding the way that the international community is handling the crisis in Ethiopia and called for an immediate action to facilitate a credible peace process to prevent the failure of Ethiopia. Sarun Zagai reports.
A day before the military offensive by the Ethiopian government forces, President of Tigray, Tigray had sent a letter to high-ranking officials, including U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Kenya's former President Uhuru Kenyatta, expressing concern about the threats posed on ending the conflict peacefully. In his letter, the president blamed the international community, including the African Union, for failing to avert the military offensive against Tigray, and said that his government will take all necessary measures to defend its people and territory. The president said that the Ethiopian government has to fulfill its legal obligations and restore vital services and ensure unfettered humanitarian access without any precondition. He also stated accountability for all the crimes on the war on Tigray and the withdrawal of all external forces must be achieved for the peace process to succeed. The letter reiterated the reservation of the government of Tigray on African Union, saying Tigray is dismayed by the repeated failure of African Union to fulfill its obligations when it comes to the war on Tigray, while AU's role remains essential in seeking African solutions to African problems. The president stated that, in addition to the war on Tigray, armed conflicts are underway in Oromia, Benshangul and Gambella regions, while Al-Shabaab remains active in Somali region, and raised concern regarding the way that the international community is handling such crises. The president also called for immediate action in facilitating a peace process to prevent another round of genocide on Tigray.
Tigray External Affairs Office issued a statement on Wednesday calling claims by Ethiopian authorities that they've shot an airplane that allegedly crossed Ethiopian airspace to deliver weapons to Tigrayan fighters completely groundless. The statement highlighted that the Ethiopian government is using such claims to try and justify coming airstrikes. Abil Zagabu has the report.
In a statement on Wednesday, Tigray External Affairs Office called recent claims by Ethiopian officials that the Ethiopian Air Forces have shot down a plane that allegedly crossed Ethiopian airspace to deliver weapons to Tigray forces completely baseless. The statement was issued following incoherent statements from high-ranking officials of the Ethiopian government and the Ministry of Defense, while the Secretary Advisor to the Prime Minister Redwan Hussein stated that the aircraft was shot as it was landing in Mekelle. On the other hand, the Ministry of Defense said it was shot as it entered the Ethiopian airspace from Sudan through western Tigray. In another statement, a Prosperity Party official, Suleiman Dedefo, stated that the plane was shot in Shoraro, northwestern Tigray, while Prosperity Party has officially said that it was in Humera, western Tigray. Tigray External Affairs Office said Abiy Ahmed's government is making these groundless claims to lay a fertile ground to conduct airstrikes across the state and called on the international community to do its part in averting possible assaults on civilians.
The United Nations, European Union, and the African Union, as well as the United States, have condemned the resumption of hostilities in Ethiopia. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed concern over the matter and called for an immediate cessation of hostilities as well as the resumption of public services and peace talks with full guarantee of humanitarian access. Abil Zagaw has the detail.
The international community, including the United Nations and the European Union, are appealing for an immediate cessation of hostilities following the military offensive launched by the Ethiopian government. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said he was deeply disappointed to learn about the eruption of hostilities and called for the resumption of peace talks with full guarantee of humanitarian access and restoration of basic services.
I am deeply shocked and saddened by the news of the resumption of hostilities in Ethiopia. Ethiopians, Tigrayans, Amaras, Oromos, Afars have already suffered too much. My strong appeal is for an immediate cessation of hostilities and for the resumption of peace talks between the government and the TPLF with, at the same time, the full guarantee of humanitarian access to people in need and the reestablishment of public services.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken also expressed his concerns, saying that fresh fights will further deteriorate the humanitarian situation and called for opposing sides to redouble their efforts to find a negotiated end to the conflict. European Union High Representative for Security and Foreign Affairs Josep Borrell has also said the resumption of hostilities would shed peace efforts in ending the conflict between the two sides. African Union Commission Chairperson Moussa Faki Mohamed has also expressed his concern on the renewed fighting and called for an immediate end to the hostilities. It is to be recalled that the African Union has supported the war at its outset, calling it a law enforcement operation.
On Wednesday, Tigray's Army Military Command had stated that Ethiopian Army, along with Amhara Special Forces and Amhara Militia, had launched a large-scale offensive against Tigray. Our reporters spoke to some residents of Mala who say that they're disappointed to see Ethiopian government breaking the truce while they were hoping for a peaceful end to the war. Take a listen.
ሰላም ይመጣል ብለን ስንጠብቅ መሰረታዊ አገልግሎቶችን ይከፈታል ብለን ስንጠብቅ
While we were hoping for peace and the resumption of basic services, our enemies are pushing us into war. The government and people of Tigray have always stood for peace, and they will continue to do so. War is destructive, and there is no winner. But now we have run out of patience. We have expressed our readiness for a peaceful resolution, even living under a complete blockade. But still, it's bad that war has started again.
We thought that there would be peace anytime soon. We were very happy about the peaceful dialogue that was expected to take place between the two parties. But now we've heard that the war has started again in the direction of Alamata, southern Tigray. We only want peace, so we strongly condemn Abiy Ahmed reigniting war. The end result will be the loss of lives. There is nothing to gain from war.
የትግራይ ህዝብ ላለፉት 6 ወራት በዚህ በተኩስ ማቆም ስምምነቱ መሰረት ያው ከዚህ የዘለቀ የተሻለ ሰላም ይገኛል በሚል እሳቤ ያው መንግስት አስፈላጊውን ጥረት ሁሉ ሲያደርግ ነበር።
After a humanitarian truce was declared in late March, the people of Tigray hoped that peace would come. However, the Ethiopian government has showed us that it has no interest for peace. We need peace. We have returned all the way from the gates of Addis to give peace a chance. But Abiy's regime has failed to recognize this. For a similar reason, our forces were ordered to withdraw from the neighboring regions of Afar and Amhara. This initiation should have been appreciated.
መንግስታችንና ያው ህዝባችን ሰላም ይፈልጋል።
We have always wanted peace. Our enemies, on the other hand, have always been plotting war. They have been preparing for war.
Tigray External Affairs Office said allegations that claim that the government of Tigray has stolen fuel tankers belonging to the World Food Program are baseless. In a statement earlier today, the office said that it's very disturbed by accusations from WFP's executive director that the government of Tigray is stealing WFP's fuel tankers, while in fact the government had lent 600,000 liters of fuel to WFP with the hope that it will be paid back soon. The office believes that WFP and Executive General will see errors of their ways and refrain from being accessory of the Ethiopian government. The termination of basic services coupled with an all-encompassing siege by the Ethiopian government has devastated the lives of millions in Tigray, especially those with chronic illnesses. Our reporter Aregawi Garamkel visited the house of Ephraim Tesfai, a 26-year-old who has developed cancer due to lack of medical supplies. Let's take a look.
This is a 26-year-old Ephraim Tesfai. For 6 years before the start of the war on Tigray, he had liver condition. Ephraim's liver condition turned into cancer as he couldn't find his medication following the war and the all-encompassing siege on the region. Ephraim says he is in a dire situation.
My previous liver condition has now turned into cancer. This is because of the lack of medications. I have a severe pain. I suffer all night long. I also have a severe abdominal pain as I have become constipated.
Ephraim has developed cancer due to lack of medical supplies. But since situations in Tigray remain the same with all basic services such as banking discontinued, his health condition continues to deteriorate.
I am in a terrible situation as I haven't been able to find my medication due to the ongoing war. Previously, I was able to get medications for free from health centers, but at the moment, since all health facilities have run out of medical supplies, there is no medication for me.
The responsibility of taking care of Ephraim and his siblings, including autistic sister, falls on his mother, Azib Stefanos, as they have no idea about the whereabouts of their father, who was in Addis before the start of the war. Azib says she has reached at a level where she cannot support her children.
I used to sell injera to provide for my family. My husband, who worked in Addis, used to support us, and so we used my income for my son's medication. But since I haven't been able to work, I'm no longer able to pay for my son's medical care. We are no longer getting support from my husband, as he is in Addis Ababa. I haven't heard from him because of the communications blackout. I don't know whether he's alive or dead.
Ephraim calls on everyone who cares about humanity to help him stay alive.
بزلكم عاوني بزلكم تاسو حجزني بجاهم متين يوم
Who saw my situation and what I am going through. Help me in any way you can. I am on the verge of death, so please help me.
It's been 14 months now since the Ethiopian government imposed an all-encompassing siege on Tigray. With the lack of essential items such as medical supplies and food items, millions continue to suffer. Among these are IDPs sheltered in different camps across the state. Our reporter Winta Kidana visited Ekatit 23 IDP camp in Ma'ala, where she met a 70-year-old IDP from western Tigray, Makhalesh Gabra, who suffers from diabetes and hypertension and is finding it difficult to access medication.
Makhalesh Gabra is one of the hundreds of IDPs sheltered in Ekatit Celeste IDP camp in Maqala. She is a 70-year-old woman that was displaced from Turkan, an area located in Afta Humera, western Tigray, on November 6 of 2020. She says she began to suffer from diabetes and hypertension as a result of the fear and trauma she had experienced while trying to escape from her hometown, an area raided by a massacre and ethnic cleansing.
My journey to Maqala was difficult. Soldiers had tried to kill me in different times. I spent months in fear and anxiety. That's how I got all these diseases I didn't have before. I suffer from diabetes. I have hypertension, which I never had before the war broke out. Before all of this started, I was healthy enough to work and provide for myself and my relatives. I had a farmland, livestock, and a lot of belongings. My life was really comfortable. And because of the enemies that invaded us, I am in a lot of trouble.
Makhalesh says she lives at the camp alone, and she adds that she hasn't been able to get any treatment for her diseases so far.
I lost 3 of my kids before the war, and now I'm left alone with no one to take care of me. Everyone here tries to help me by donating something, but it's not even near enough because they too are under a lot of problems. I'm suffering due to lack of food, medication, and from the lack of someone to look after me. As for the hypertension, people have been helping me to buy some medication, but I never had a chance to find any medication for my diabetes. I have not taken any insulin yet. I'm running out of medication for the hypertension. I'm worried about what to do next.
Makhalesh says she is forced to exchange the little food aid she received since she has to cut glucose-rich foods due to her medical condition, and she implored for the siege to be lifted as life continues to be unbearable for her.
My health condition doesn't allow me to eat anything I found because I have to avoid foods with high glucose content. Whatever aid I have received, I have to exchange it with stuff because that's the only food that will not raise my glucose level. Life is really tough. The siege is the cause of all of our problems. We are hungry and sick because humanitarian aid has been blocked from reaching the people of Tigray. Things can get any dangerous, so the siege has to be lifted and we should be able to access humanitarian assistance.
Makhalesh's story is a story of many IDPs in different parts of Tigray that are suffering due to lack of food and medication caused by a near-total blockade on Tigray. The question now remains whether the international community will stand idly and watch Makhalesh and many more die without offering hand to ease their pain.
That wraps up our news for the hour. I'm Mary from Tigray. Thank you for tuning in.